Right, I think we'll get started. So I'd like to welcome everybody to this Sennheiser and Midwich webinar. Thank you for taking some of your time out today to spend it with us. My name is Chris Southern. I'm General Sales Manager for Enterprise Solutions here at Midwich, and I also head up the UC&C team. The webinar format for today contains quite a lot of live demonstration of the Ceiling Connect 2. So as a result of that, if you could put your questions into the Q&A area, our team will pick those up as we go along, but we'll also have a section at the end of the presentation for an open Q&A session as well. So I head up the UC&C team, as I've already mentioned, and as part of my role, I got to put together a portfolio of products that are suitable for everything from a huddle room through to conference room, conference center, for Teams, Zooms, and those sort of platforms, because of the opportunity that's out there at the moment is massive. As you can see from the information on the screen there from Avixa, 90% of our AV providers and AV end users have listed collaboration and conferencing as key to them over the next 6 months, and that was part of a COVID-19 survey recently completed. So when I was speaking to John in our audio team, who we work very closely with from our UC&C team, he came up with Sennheiser straight away due to the quality of the product and the breadth of range, and in particular the Ceiling Connect 2, because it's Microsoft certified. And the beauty of this product is that it does what all good products do, which is it's in the room, and the people that are using the room don't even notice it's there because it does such a good job, and there's no interaction required for the users in the room, so they get a great experience without needing to have setup support and so on in there. So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll pass on to the guys at Sennheiser, and they'll show you just what the TeamConnect 2 can do.
Good morning, guys. I'm Mark Haig. I'm a sales manager for Sennheiser, and I have the pleasure of looking after the Midwich account. Presenting today, we'll have Inesh Patel, Business Development Manager, and Joe Mahoney, our Technical Application Engineer. So just in case you're not quite sure you know a lot about Sennheiser, Sennheiser have made exceptionally high quality microphones for 75 years now. Probably best known for supplying professional music industry, where we have many high-profile artists using our mics. We are very well known and frequently used in the West End and around the world in many theatres, and the manufacturer of choice for multiple shows. We are highly respected in live broadcasting, including sports and live TV. And also for the aficionados of the microphone world, Sennheiser also owns Neumann, renowned for their exceptional quality in that's used on stage and in studios. And we've brought all this wealth of experience and quality into the business world. So without further ado, can I introduce Joe and Inesh?
That's brilliant. Thanks for that introduction, Mark, and thanks, Chris, for inviting Sennheiser to join this Midwich event as well. It's a real pleasure to be here. We're basically going to show you how to bring your meetings up to a higher level using TeamConnect Ceiling 2. This microphone works extremely differently to anything else on the market. Any other ceiling microphone, you can compare it with this, but it's unique in the way it operates, and in doing so, it will provide you with extremely high intelligible results with great flexibility as well. So Joe, why don't you give us a few highlights of what makes this product so unique and so good?
Yeah, so like Inesh mentioned, it is quite unique on the market in the way in which it actually works, the technology behind it. So what this microphone will actually do is it will create one dynamic beam, which is about 30 degrees. And this beam is going to track and follow people as they walk around in the room. So with this person who's currently talking, if he were to get up and walk over to the flip chart, this microphone is just going to track and follow him as he walks over to that space. And exactly the same if he walks over to the monitor position, this beam is going to track and follow him once again. So it's pretty much acting as an automatic boom operator in a sense. just at a much quicker pace. So the beam will actually move on its standard setting at about 10 milliseconds. That can be adjusted if you have a really noisy environment or a really quiet environment. You can change how that moves. But yeah, 30-degree beam, one channel of audio that's going to track and follow people as they walk around the space. The great thing about the microphone is, like we mentioned, it's tracking and following the loudest source in the room. We aren't setting these fixed positions and these fixed lobes in the space. So we don't actually care what is in the room. So at the moment we have this horseshoe configuration, but if we wanted to, we can completely remove all those tables and chairs and have more of a kind of breakout session instead. And we won't actually have to touch the microphone at all for that to work. So when we're relying on these fixed lobes, we have to set them for furniture and things like that. With our microphone, because we have a dynamic single beam, we actually don't have to worry about that. You set it up for the space, not for what's in the space. And exactly the same, once again, we can even do something like, training format, and we won't have to touch the microphone setting. So it sits up in the ceiling. Like Chris mentioned, a good kind of solution is something that you don't even really know is in the room. It just does its job and it works. So that's really what this microphone is going to do. So hopefully we can do a quick live demonstration of the audio side of things. So let me get our screen on full view for you.
Yeah, so while Joe's doing that, so hopefully you've got us in full view. So me and Joe are actually socially distanced in the same space. So how rare is that at the moment? We've been doing this for quite a while, but we are in a space which doesn't have any echoacoustic treatment in the space. Over here to my right hand side are glass partition walls, and just behind Joe on the left hand side are glass windows to the outside world, which we can probably see just about there. And as mentioned, we've got glass on either side, and the ceiling mic is in the ceiling grid about 2.6 meters off the floor, and the room size is from the front to our partition wall is about 5.5 meters, and then it extends further by about 3.5 meters, and from width to width it's 7.6 meters wide. So we're using the one microphone. So let's prove the technology to you. So you can hear the microphone as we speak at the moment. But if I was to maybe walk around the space, you'll hear the microphone, how it follows me around the space. I'm not sure how well the camera is going to follow me, but we'll try. But the key thing is to remind or to listen to the audio quality, because you should get a significant level of audio which is consistent. So even though I'm going to move around, that single 30-degree beam is now following me around the space, even though the camera can't keep up. There we go, it is just about, but I'll keep walking and talking, even from the front view as well, and talk to you from this point. I'll even face away from the microphone, so I'll face the screen. So here I am, hi. The microphone's way back that way, but you hopefully have still got a very good, consistent level of audio.
Yeah, we do get asked the question quite often, because it is just the one beam that's moving and tracking and following the loudest source in the room. How does that actually work when two people are having a conversation when they're talking? So I think what we'll do for the first or the second audio test would be a simple count test. So we'll go from 1 to 20 back and forth, and hopefully you can hear the quality and how quickly that beam is switching. So I'll start with 1, 2,
3, 4,
5, 6,
7, 8,
9, 10,
11, 12,
13, 14,
15, 16,
17, 18,
19, 20.
Perfect.
And I did that without a calculator.
Me too.
Often what we get asked at that point is, what happens if two people are talking at the same time?
Yeah, really good question. And what I would definitely bear in mind is it's probably not good etiquette to talk at the same time, but what you're actually going to hear and experience is very similar to what you would hear and experience if you were in the room with us. So you kind of have to decide who it is that you're going to focus on and listen to. And that's pretty much what the microphone's doing. And it's all about who is the loudest source in the room. So I think what we'll do is, if I count up in numbers, because it's nice and easy, and I'll give Anesh the more trickier one of going up in letters, and we'll just go all the way from A to Z, 1 to 26.
Luckily, I revised with my alphabet book this morning.
And yeah, what I would definitely recommend doing is maybe try focusing on me for the first half, and then switching over and focusing on Anesh for the second half. And you should be able to hear both of us. So yeah, whenever you're ready, let's go for it.
Yeah. A, B,
1, 2,
C,
3,
D,
4,
E,
5,
F,
6,
G,
7,
H,
8,
I,
9,
J,
10, 11,
K,
12,
L,
13, 14,
N, O,
15,
P,
16,
Q,
17,
R,
18,
S,
19,
T,
20, 21,
U, V,
22, 23,
W,
24,
X,
25,
Y, Z.
26.
Oh, we finished on time.
Very good.
So yeah, we trust that came across quite well. As Joe mentioned, if you wanted to focus on a particular person, you probably should have been able to pick up what they were saying. But equally, you know, you probably would have got a good overview of what we were both saying. Pretty much similar to as if you were in the same space as us.
Exactly. So one thing that's really unique about our microphone is the fact that we do have this 30-degree really focused beam. And what this actually allows is to passively remove a lot of unwanted room noise. So what we're going to do is a bit of an odd test, but we're going to get Anesh to play his favourite instrument, which is some laminated paper.
Why don't you play that, Joe?
Do you want me to play it? Okay, I'll play some laminated paper. So I'm just going to make a consistent kind of flapping noise with this paper, and Anesh is going to start talking and stop talking kind of intermittently, and you'll be able to hear the beam switching. So while Anesh is talking, the beam is focused on him, and you're going to hear the shuffling noise reduce in level. When he stops talking, the shuffling becomes the loudest source in the room, and you actually hear that increase in level again. So you can see how this microphone and just the technology will actually help just bring the noise of the meeting down considerably on the call. So yeah, I'll start flapping.
So now, as soon as I start speaking, that beam is usually picking me up because I'll be the loudest sound in the room now, and the intelligibility of my voice should be coming through without any hindrance. You still may hear the flapping slightly in the background, but it will be severely diminished. So if I go quiet again, the beam will autofocus onto the laminate. And if I start talking again, you should pick me up straight away. And there's a reason I got Joe to do that. It's because my arm's tired, so I didn't want to play it anymore. So let's try it once more. Back to Joe. And there we go. So I'm back again. So trust that was quite a good test.
Yeah, it usually comes off quite well. Obviously, there is a little bit of processing that happens on depending on what VoIP platform you're using. Teams is relatively soft, but if you do that test on Zoom, it just removes that noise by the processing. Really odd. But yeah, hopefully that came over on Teams quite nicely.
Great. So shall we go back into the presentation and do some more live stuff later on?
Yeah, let's do it.
So other things that make this microphone totally unique to anything else on the market is not specifically unique, but dimensions wise, the microphone is 598mm by 598mm. So it will drop into a standard 600 by 600 ceiling grid in Europe. But the other key differentiator is actually the type of microphone capsule used in the Sennheiser TCC2. We actually use Sennheiser K10 capsules, and we only need 28 of these high profile capsules. These capsules are proven technology. These capsules have been around for, I think, 15 odd years or so, if not possibly longer. They have been used in other Sennheiser microphone technology where it's been proven to be of good use in really mission critical areas such as live broadcast, recording, presentation use, and there is another, I can't remember, but
Audio for video as well.
There you go. Yeah, thanks, Joe. And the differentiator there is that we need 28 of these in our microphone, but a lot of the competitors' types of microphones tend to use MEMS capsules, and these are the sort of low-cost capsules that you find in your smart devices and your portable devices, and they do give good quality, as we all know, but in a ceiling mic array, a lot of our competitors have to use quite a lot of these, a significant number of these, and then have to do a lot of processing around configuring their mic. Whereas you will see that our microphone is really easy to use, and straight out of the box, it will work straight away. So let's now take a quick look at some of the connections, and I'll let Joe tell you about those.
Yeah, thank you very much. So this is just the connection port on the back of our TeamConnect Ceiling 2. I'll start from the left and I'll make my way over to the right. So we do have a Brooklyn 2 Dante chip fitted into our TeamConnect Ceiling 2. So we have a primary and a secondary Dante port. The secondary Dante port can be used in a couple of different ways. One of them is obviously just to create a redundancy network. What you can also do with that secondary port is you can daisy chain up to 8 of our microphones together, which makes the cabling really nice and simple. In the middle, we have the reset button. So if you really play around with things and kind of mess it up a little bit, you can go back to factory box settings, which is always a comfort to know. We do actually have a reset button built into the software as well. But if you can't get that far, then we do have this hard reset at the back. Next to that, we actually have an analog output, which is relatively rare to see on a ceiling microphone nowadays, but there are a lot of video codecs that actually only support analog feeds. So we definitely tick quite a big box there when it comes to utilizing this microphone with pretty much any hardware. So we do have digital and analog feeds, and they can be used at the same time. Next to that, we have our PoE and our control port. So standard PoE doesn't require PoE plus, and then the control port can either be used with our control cockpit software, which we'll talk about in a second, or you can actually use that with a control system to do some really cool stuff like camera tracking and touch panels, things like that with buttons. But yeah, once again, we'll go into that in a bit more detail.
So looking at that, Joe, it looks like we need at least a minimum of 2 connections. Is that correct? You
do need 2 connections, yeah, power control and then your audio connections. And we've actually done that for a very specific reason. Number one, Ordinate, who created Dante, actually recommend you keep the audio signal separate from the power and the control signal. But also, you may have a Dante network which is separate from your corporate network, for instance. So you may want to keep those streams completely separated on different networks. So with this microphone, that's completely possible. Really easy to do as well.
Brilliant. So let's have a quick look at the mounting options that you can get. So the first option is that we've got a surface mount bracket. So we do a mounting frame that you can use for fixed surface mount fixings. We also do a suspension kit, so steel wires that you can suspend the microphone up to 5 meters in drop. You can obviously minimize that as required. We also do a VESA plate that you can fix on the back of the microphone to allow you to fix to any other VESA fixing solution, similar to a pole mounting option, for instance. And if you're not going to drop the mic into the grid itself, or if you're using a non-standard EU grid, which is not 600 by 600, we certainly for the American market and certain other aspects, we do these extension brackets, which allow you to extend the lip of the microphone to drop into these non-standard grids as well. But Joe, why don't you tell us a little bit about how we can tweak the microphone? What do we have to use?
Yeah, so we have a really cool bit of software called Control Cockpit, which allows you to check all of your Sennheiser devices across a network, which makes monitoring, controlling, and maintaining, updating the devices really simple and easy to do. The software can send you email or text notifications to certain people, giving them warning information about low battery, maybe if something has come out of range, for instance, you can get notifications sent like that. It's compatible with our Evolution G3 and G4 microphones, with our 6000 series, kind of our flagship digital wireless microphones. It's also compatible with our SpeechLine digital wireless, but probably more importantly for this webinar, this is actually the software that we use for our TeamConnect Ceiling 2 as well. But it's really easy and intuitive to use, and something that's a real big benefit is it's completely free of charge as well. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of an overview. It's a got an open API for third-party control for all of the devices that you can use with Control Cockpit. And like I mentioned, you can set up specific profiles and things like that with different access levels. So this is something that, you know, an AV or an IT team can set up and use every day. It goes through VPNs, everything like that. So I can literally be sat at home and I can monitor and change what's happening in this room here. So really cool bit of software.
Awesome. Let's take a look at the there's the free download bit. Yeah, that's the ceiling mic. Let's have a look at that, Joe.
Yeah, so we've got some really cool updates that happened a few weeks ago on our ceiling microphone, which allows you to customize how the microphone picks up and actually works in a space. So what you'll see is we have a priority zone. On the right hand side, you'll actually see we have this diagram. So we've got the white square with the arrow in it. That's the actual ceiling microphone, the TeamConnect Ceiling 2. And then we've got this blue kind of hemisphere, which is the 4 meter pickup radius of the microphone. What you'll also see is there's these green sections here, and there's also these darker black sections. So the green section is a priority zone, and you can set that both vertically and horizontally, as shallow or as wide as you like. And then you have 5 exclusion zones that you can actually add as well. The exclusion zones, in exactly the same way as the priority zone, they can be adjusted both horizontally and vertically, as wide or as small as you like. And there's a number of uses for the priority zones and the exclusion zones. So the priority zone, obviously, if you do have something like a host who's running maybe a presentation or is running a chat or something like that, maybe it's a lecturer's position or a host at a lectern, maybe, you can actually prioritize that area, which effectively means if anyone else is talking in the space with you, it's going to focus on you and you're going to be priority. And we can actually weight that as well, so we can change how hard or soft that priority zone actually is, how it works. And with the exclusion zones as well, and we can use that to remove things like air conditioning noise, maybe projector fan noise, speaker positions nearby, we may want to remove them as well, and even things like, you know, a noisy door entrance, we can just completely eliminate that section of the room. But one thing that's really cool, hopefully you'll be able to see underneath the diagram here, we have some information about where the beam actually is, where it's pointed. And we can use this information for some really cool things like driving camera systems, for instance. And we actually have that set up in this room, so we'll show you that in a second. But I think I'll pass back over to Inesh.
Why don't you tell us how to take that telemetry data and how to import it into a control system? What do you have to use?
Yeah, so actually in terms of what you need to use, it's anything that can send packets effectively, but there are control systems like QSC, Extron, things like that, which will allow you to do it. And yeah, we have an open media control protocol, so the Sennheiser sound control protocol, which allows you to do all of this API interfacing. So we can get the information about the beam and we can extract that to a control system, and we can adjust audio settings, LED controls and everything like that. So pretty much everything we can adjust on Control Cockpit, we can do via this open API protocol as well.
Awesome, thanks Joe. So all of this actually culminates in making this microphone usable in lots of different scenarios. So let's just quickly review what we can use this microphone for, because obviously, as we're using today for unified communication calls, that's what it's definitely designed for, and that's what originally it was used for. But now with the new updated voice lift feature, it means we can also use this microphone for in-room voice amplification, because obviously in bigger rooms, you need a little bit of voice lift potentially. So use the same microphone, whereas before you might have needed to introduce external mics, but now you can use the same microphone. Going forwards, there's more and more talk about voice control coming into the corporate world. So if we are going to implement voice control in meeting rooms, why not use the same microphone to capture that intelligible voice instruction? Because the last thing we want is the instruction to be misinterpreted. You know, you don't want to say turn on the lights and suddenly the blinds go up and that sort of thing. So let's capture the right command straight away. And there's other things you can use this microphone for at the same time, and you can feed the high quality audio into your aided listening system, so that people that might be dialing on aided listening will also get that good quality audio from the space. And what else could we do? So actually, as Joe mentioned, we can actually use the microphone not just to pick up the great audio, but the telemetry data of what the microphone's doing can trigger cameras, and we're going to show you that as well in a second. And obviously lecture capture for not only the camera side of things, but feeding in high quality audio into any lecture capture scenarios that you might need. So I think, Joe, I think people are getting bored out there, probably death by PowerPoint. They probably want to see a bit more live action. What do you think?
I think so. So at this point, we should probably turn on our camera tracking.
Yeah, let's put the auto tracking back on. There we go. And as I keep talking, the camera should now refocus on me. There we go. And what we've got is some various presets around the room that will trigger. There is a slight delay on the camera settings. We've programmed a little bit of delay just to stop the camera jumping around unnecessarily.
Yeah, so we've added about a 3-second delay to it. So you have to be continually talking for about 3 seconds before it recognises that new position and switches. But this is all done just by the telemetry information from the microphone will trigger a certain preset recall on the actual camera, and it can be quite specific and quite precise actually. So if I were to just take a small step to the left, this should actually recognize me as a different angle on the microphone, and it should actually trigger a different preset, and that's maybe a foot, maybe less of movement, and changes the cameras.
Perfect. And now if I continue to talk at my new position, I'm actually socially distanced from Joe on the other side of this lovely screen, and you can see me presenting from this position as well. And don't forget, I can even turn around, and if this was an annotation screen, you'd get no drop in audio level and still be able to hear me quite clearly while I'm annotating.
Yeah, and the great thing about this is we're not relying on anyone having to wear something like badges that kind of trigger anything. We're not relying on facial recognition. This is purely just using the information that's being derived from the microphone itself. So nothing fancy going on, let's say.
Nice one, Joe. And there's actually another small subtlety that we can show off. And that's where the telemetry data is actually recognising if I'm standing up, because we're showing off not just the horizontal plane, but also the vertical plane. And what I can do is actually show you the subtle difference to show me in a seated position where the camera will slightly refocus and zoom in on me as well.
Perfect. So hopefully that's kind of shown off the camera tracking. I could speed that up a little bit actually looking at it. It's a little bit slow, but I was the person that programmed this, and I'm predominantly an audio guy, not so much a control guy. But yeah, that kind of worked. Let's go back to this view. There we go.
Yeah, not bad, Joe, for an audio guy. You've done reasonably well then.
Thank you.
Well done. Let's get back to the presentation, and why don't we show off an example large room system that we can quickly run through. So here's a good sized room, a bit bigger than your standard conference space, but what we can see here is that there's a top table and then people seated on the tables in the audience. So what we've worked out is we've worked out that we need 5 ceiling mics represented by those white cross squares with the red boxes around them. And what we'll do in the front microphone is just highlight the coverage area. So what we say is plan for a 4-meter pickup area. So there's our 4-meter radius circle showing us what it's going to pick up. So we can see there that we're going to cover the front table quite well, with also a little bit of the audience as well. But what we want to do is also check that the other microphones are picking up the rest of the areas for Q&A, etc. So let's plot those. So there's our 4-meter circles around each of those mics. And as you can see, we're now covering all of the areas really, really nicely. Yes, there are a few gaps there. And if you were concerned as a system designer that you wanted to make sure that everything was covered, then by all means, you could probably space these out a little bit and introduce additional microphones should you have to, because it's all about those crossover areas to make sure that you've got no dead spots. But for this scenario, we know people are going to be seated, maybe a little bit of movement here and there, but otherwise they're all going to get picked up really well because they're all in coverage areas. But the top table is quite important. So if everyone's talking at the top table, we don't want the microphones picking up what people are talking in the audience, for instance. So what we can do is introduce our new priority zone on that top table. And just like that, so as soon as anybody's talking in that priority zone, that's going to take precedence, and anybody else talking will be overridden. But there's other clever things we can do, because as you can see, there's a number of speakers in the room, and what we don't want is that pesky element of feedback occurring. So we want to minimize that feedback element as much as possible. And you see that top right hand corner speaker pointing straight into the stage, which is almost acting like a fold back monitor for the guys on stage there. But what we can do with the microphone is put an exclusion zone in. And there we go. So if we put the exclusion zone on, it will decrease the pickup off that speaker area, allowing us to get that more gain before feedback. But also with the other microphones, we can see that there are other speaker positions there as well. So let's put some exclusion zones in for each of those. And what you've got to remember, this is 3D exclusion zoning. So we're only excluding the high level speakers. So everybody seated at low level underneath those exclusion zones will still be picked up because it's a high level exclusion zone.
Yeah, exactly. We can literally cut off, you know, just the very top level of a room or just the very bottom section of a room, you know, so it's completely customizable. So we can literally cut off the speakers above people's seating positions while still capturing the people in those seating areas. So a really nice new feature there.
Great. And I think, Joe, you can summarize some of these key features up for us now, can't you?
Yes, I can indeed. So TeamConnect Ceiling 2 generates one automatic dynamic beam using 28 of our K10 capsules. It creates a 30-degree directive beam which follows and tracks the louder source in the room. Planned for a coverage of 4 to 5 meter radius, so about 64 square meters. This does depend on the room acoustics. So if you have really nice room acoustics, you can go further. If you have really poor room acoustics, you're going to be restricted slightly on that. In terms of height, we've got a sweet spot from about 2.4 to 3.5 meters, but actually, once again, room acoustics kind of dependent. 2.2 to 4.5 is kind of what it says in the book. Really important, it's only one channel of AEC audio on your DSP, either analog, Dante or both. Really cool for the video conferencing where they might have analog feeds, only one microphone input. You can pretty much cover a medium to large meeting room just with that kind of solution. It's just standard class 3 PoE power, doesn't require PoE plus. And with the new TrueVoicelift features, the priority zoning and the advanced exclusion zone features, I think it's fair to say that actually the TeamConnect Ceiling 2 is the most powerful beamforming microphone on the market. And of course, all made, engineered, designed in Germany.
Nice one, Joe. Thanks very much. So let's have a quick look. You know, I mean, what can we do next? Basically, you know, for you guys and your customers, if you're talking to your customers and you want to prove this solution to them, all you need to do is arrange a live demo, just pretty much like we've done here today, to show you the benefits of how good this microphone is. You know, if you can get the demo in front of a customer, then they get to listen to it from the far end, which is the way it's going to be used, and it's usually the way to convince them. And to arrange those demos, you know, John Niblo is going to come on in a second and remind you that please do contact him and his team on audio@midwich.com to see if they can help you. Let the mic impress your client, and hopefully you'll just see the orders start flooding in. But there's some other things coming up soon as well. So if you want to learn more deeper elements of this microphone, we at Sennheiser are actually doing a deep dive seminar next Tuesday, and it will be repeated again every other Tuesday. And I think Joe's going to drop in the chat a quick link to register for those. Is that right, Joe?
I am indeed, yeah.
And also, I think I'm going to let John talk to you about these. So let's bring John in, because John is going to tell you about a couple of other Midwich seminars coming up. Is that right, John?
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks for that, Inesh and Joe. That's a great presentation. I think we clearly demonstrated the quality and the sort of versatility of the TeamConnect Ceiling mic. I'd also like to mention, because I have worked with it sort of hands-on and close up, how well engineered and manufactured the product is, and I think sort of stays in line with what we've come to expect from Sennheiser over the years. Great build quality, and works exceptionally well. I'd also like to say thank you to everybody who's joined us this morning and given up their time, and I'm sure you found the content very useful. Before I hand over and we head to a sort of Q&A, I would like to still, while I still have your attention, also point out there is a number of other webinars that we have coming up. On the 1st of April, we have at 10 AM the fundamentals of speechline digital wireless, and on the 15th of April we have an introduction to Mobile Connect. Again, both very worthwhile having a look at, some great products, and I think it's something that you would all find very useful, and something you can take to your customers. As Inesh mentioned, I look after the audio division within Midwich, and I'm going to look after the team of specialists, so we're on hand should you have any audio requirements or any questions or any requirement for help. You can contact us at audio@midwich.com, also on 0161 868 1240, and as I say, we can pick up any of your inquiries. So if there's any questions that you've got now or you want to take offline, please feel free to contact us, and we'd be happy to help. Again, thank you to the Midwich team. I think great presentation. Inesh, Joe, fantastic. Mark, thanks for your help. Yeah, thanks to everybody for attending. I'm just going to pass you over for any Q&A if we've got some questions on there that we can pick up and take it from there. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, Joe and Ash. We have had one question in. When you were showing the diagram of the 5 ceiling mics in the room with the speakers on the walls, the question came in is how easy is it to reconfigure on a different layout?
Yeah, so it's actually really easy to do, and there are a couple of ways in which you can actually do that. So number one, it can be, a manual process of going into Control Cockpit and actually adjusting and altering those microphones configurations. Probably the easier way to do it is if you know how the room is going to actually be used, you can use the API to reconfigure the microphones just at a touch of a button on a touch panel. So if you did want to reconfigure the tables and the chairs, and you actually want to move the exclusion zones, move the priority zones, maybe even mute rear microphones, things like that, you can program that all in using our media controller. And then, get that onto something like a touch panel, and it can just be as simple as pressing a button in the room. So we have had a couple of examples actually in a couple of projects whereby, maybe it's a lecture theatre and they don't want to pick up the audience at all. So that's kind of scenario one. And then scenario two, they just press a button and it opens up the microphones to the audience for Q&A, and then you can add all kinds of different scenarios in there as well. So it does require a little bit of programming to do that, but then it's all automated and easy, just happens in the background.
Also, I'll just add to that is in this space here, we often move this furniture around all the time, but we don't have to do anything in this room. We can move the furniture and the microphone will still pick us up regardless of whatever layout we do. So it's two extremes. So if you want to do fancy stuff, you can program it and do fancy stuff. If you want to keep it simple, install the mic in a space, cover the area, and just let guys move their furniture around as much as you want without having to interface with any control system.
Yeah, and that really is unique, I think, to our microphone. I think every other ceiling microphone on the market actually relies on these fixed lobes and fixed positions in the room, which means if you decide to move tables and chairs around, you may find yourself in a bit of a dead spot in the room where we don't have a lobe positioned. But like we mentioned before with our ceiling microphone, we aren't relying on lobes and positions. We're purely relying on just the coverage area of the microphone itself. So regardless of what's happening in that space, the microphone is just going to work.
Any other questions?
We've had Ian says great product, new updates are excellent. Thanks all. Thank you, Ian. We've had okay, thanks. And one question that I think we get asked an awful lot is how can I connect it to my USB inputs on my room PC?
Great question.
Yeah.
Do you want to go for that or do you want me to?
I'll go for it. Yeah, I'll go for it. So it can be done. You can take either the analog feed audio out or the Dante feed audio out. You will need an interface to convert from Dante or analog to USB. But once you've got that, you've still only got that one channel of audio. You can plug that directly into your PC. Now, then it depends on how complex a room install that you've got. If you've just got a basic wall-mounted screen with speakers on or simple speakers on the wall, you can usually get away with the built-in echo-acoustic cancellation algorithms on the platform of the PC device. So if it's Teams, for instance, or WebEx, the built-in AEC within that platform will handle that basic information. It's when you need to use multiple microphones, or if you're putting in if you're putting in lots of speakers, that's when you will probably exceed the limitations of the built-in AEC algorithm and you will need external processing. But otherwise, if you can just plug straight into USB, then just use an appropriate interface and away you go.
Excellent, thank you. Another question we get asked a lot. I should point out that we have dropped in the webinars into the Q&A. So if you want to click on any of those and get those meetings ready for yourselves, brilliant. Love to see you again. Can I change the light on the mics? We get asked a lot that quite frequently nowadays because corporate colours. If you've got a lovely red when it's muted or a green when it's on normally, can you change those colours now, or are they still fixed?
You can change the colours, yeah. I believe there's 12 different colours that you can pick from and 6 different brightnesses as well. So if you want to, you can completely switch them off and, really have the microphone hidden in the room. What we can also do as well is customise the face of the microphone. So if it is going into quite a bespoke space, you can get wrapping and painting and things like that done on the actual metal work of the microphone itself. We've had some really odd requests and really odd patterns that we've done. But yeah, any RAW colour, effectively, you can customise the microphone. So not only the LEDs themselves, but actually the hard kind of metalware of the mic as well.
Superb, guys. I'm not sure that's our time limit. We've had 45 minutes. Thank you everybody for attending. Very, very kind of you indeed to give your time up. Hope it's been useful. Please do remember audio@midwich.com. Any questions, fire it off to those guys. They always come back to you, and always, if they're not sure on something, obviously they come back to us. They really cannot praise the quality of what they try to, the information they pass out highly enough. It really is very, very good. So please, any questions, audio@midwich.com, and we'll come back to you. But as Inesh was saying, particularly, the demo gets the sales. Please, we'll get them on a Teams call. You can be there as well. We'd love you to be there, obviously, as well. And we can talk to the customer just like on a real live webinar, Teams call, just a standard Teams call. Please get that arranged. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Cheers, thanks.
See you next time.
See you next time.